All right, so this is a unit 3, lesson 3, and we're going to be able, by the end of this, to take some coordinates from a line, given that that line is a linear relationship, and from those coordinates write a line in slope-intercept form and rewrite that in point-slope form or standard form or anything like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so first off, we'll find the slope of this line here, and we're going to do that by finding, we can just pick any one of these 2 points and we'll identify them by, you know, a color code or whatever way you want to call them, like a point initial, point final, or whatever you want to do. It's just important that you maintain consistency when you do this. Okay, that's the number one thing, is when you're doing your math, you make sure the point pair that you reference stays consistent when you're doing this. Okay, so we'll do like a point A or a point B or whatever, and that's fine if you do it that way, right? So I'm going to call, I'll just choose these 2 points here. I'm going to choose this one, I'll call this point blue. This is point blue, right? And this point blue is, this is x and y, so this point blue is 0, -3. Okay, maybe write that a little bit better. This point blue is 0, -3. Okay, and I'll call this one point red. I'll do this one. I'll call this one point red. And this point red is 8, 0.2. Okay. So those are our 2 points that we're going to figure out, right? So we've got to figure out the slope of the line. Remember that slope, I'll make my slope green. Slope equals your change in y. Your change in y. Make my change in y equal my burgundy. My change in y divided by my change in x divided by my, I'll make that orange, my change in x. Okay, so I'm going to make my change in y and my change in x. I'm going to make my change, I'm going to define my change in y to be equal to, I can pick whatever I want it to be, my red minus my blue. Okay, I can define it to be whatever I want it to be. So it's going to be equal to my y, my red y minus oh, that's yeah, my red y minus my blue y. My blue y. And you can mark these differently if you don't have awesome pens. You could call this y1 minus y2, ya minus yb, whatever you wanted to do. If in case you don't have like colors, I'll call this A. I'll call this R. Yeah, and I'll call this B. There we go. I'll call that R and B. So this will be R and B, point R and point B. Okay, and so this is the y coordinate of R, and this is the y coordinate of B. Okay, and then it's the same over here. I have to make sure that I'm going to use my x coordinate of R minus my y coordinate of B. Sorry, my x coordinate of B. Right, so this seems fairly intuitive, but it's really easy to get these mixed up and matched, right? And you could have changed R and B and X and B, or you could have changed these reds and blues as long as you changed the red and blue on the bottom. It doesn't matter, you can define it. Mathematically, it will be the same. Okay, so as long as you keep it consistent throughout your exercise. Okay, so here I'm going to go ahead and plug some numbers in. My red Y value, is 0.2. Make this a little bit smaller here. This is 8, 0.2. And this is my point R. Okay, so this is 0.2 minus my blue value, which is minus -3. So it's minus -3. Okay, that's where it can get tricky. Okay, so that's minus -3 divided by my X value for R, which is 8, minus my X value for blue, which is 0, minus 0. Okay, and now I just do some math here. So my slope is going to be 2.3. My change in Y is 2.3 over 8. Over 8. What an ugly number for slope. Okay. No, that's not right. That was way wrong. It's 3.2. 3.2, because negative minus a negative is positive, so it's 3.2 over 8. Over 8. Now, let's see if I want to. That's 2/5. Thanks to my calculator, I was able to determine that that is 2 over 5. That is 2/5. That's 2/5. Okay, so M, I'll write this over here. Green M equals 2/5. I'm just going to write this as green. Equals 2/5. So every 2 up, it goes over 5. It's positive. Okay, so this is a sloping up line. Okay, so here we have an equation. What is the equation in point slope form? Okay, well, again, I can pick whatever I want to pick. So I'm going to have my y's on one side equals the slope times my x's, right? So my y's on one side times my my x's. So, all right. So all I got to do now is pick any point on the line. I only need one point, right? So I'm going to write some parentheses. These are my y's on this side. My slope goes here. My slope goes here, and it's going to be my x's. Remember, slopes and x's go with each other. Okay, and then my values for my point goes on my x side. So I'm going to put my x's. I made my x's burgundy, so it's going to be the point. I'll use this one. I'll use this red one here. So it's going to be 8 minus x. Okay, that's my point minus the point on my that I'm picking, and then y minus the y point minus 0.2. So that is my that is it in point slope form. All right, now to write the equation in slope intercept form, we say that y equals our m value, which is 2/5. 2/5 times x, any x that we have, any x plus our b, So how do we figure out b? Well, how do we figure out b? So we know that when x equals 0, right? When x equals 0, so if we look at like a graph, if we make our own graph here, if at any point our x value is 0, well then wherever that x equals 0, then our y value just happens to be our x-intercept. So right away it tells us that our x-intercept is -3. Or excuse me, our y-intercept is -3. So it's going to be -3. Well, but how do I know that? How do I figure that out? If I didn't have this point right here, I think that's covered maybe in a different one. Or if you think about it, it's pretty kind of obvious here, because if you want to figure out where the y-intercept is, well, the y will intercept when x is 0, right? Every time, right? Because if I have a, I can just tell you now, I guess. I don't know if they cover this in another one or not. But if you have a coordinate plane, right? Coordinate plane. And you have a line. This is your x-axis, this is your y-axis. And you have a function, it's a straight line. Or not a straight line, it doesn't really matter. Wherever and whenever your x value is 0, x equals 0, it's going to be intercepting the y-axis. Right? So if you know that, right, then all you have to do here is set x equals 0, right, and you'd be able to solve for your that x equals -3, right? So if you have any one of these points here and you put it into this equation, right, and set x equal to 0, you'd be able to solve for x as -3.